विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल गंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल गंगरी तरंगा तव शुभ नामे गाये तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाये तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे। My dear students, faculty, the non-teaching colleagues in the campus, my administrative officers, foreign nationals, guests this morning, a very happy Republic Day. This is the Ganatantra Divas that we celebrate every year with great fervor and dedication. Now, this particular day is marked by our sense of pride in our nation's achievement. On this day, the Constitution of India was heralded, the longest and the most comprehensive constitution ever in the world. And Dr. Ambedkar had at that point made an observation. He said that this constitution can never ever go wrong. If at all, if something goes wrong in the nation, that would be because of the vileness of man rather than the constitution. The vileness is something that we need to be mindful about. That's something that we need to throw out of our system, if at all it's there. He also made another very important observation, and he said that as Indians, we ought to be and we need to be sincere in our work. Diligence should be our forte. And no matter what you achieve or you don't achieve over a period of time, even your critics come to admire you and uphold your work if it is sincere, if it is true to the nation. I think that is very important. On this day, while the nation celebrates the Republic Day, we know it as a national day. This is also a day that was chosen because in 1930, it was declared as a Purna Swaraj. And that is what has culminated into a Republic of India. We moved from being servile citizens of the empire to being free citizens of India. I think that is what we need to celebrate. And this morning at English and Foreign Languages University, when I see such bright young faces, I am compelled to think about what is it that we have achieved here that could be patriotic. What is it that we have been able to accomplish that has added to the national building in some way, if not in many ways. And when I look at ourselves, this has been a long journey. We came in, the university itself came in as Central Institute of English, moved on to being Central Institute of English and Foreign Languages. I'm happy this morning that we have a former Vice Chancellor of Central Institute of English and Foreign Languages, a deemed university, a man who with his compelling work had achieved a 5-star for the deemed university, Professor Pramod Talgeri. He is our chief guest this morning with us. I must mention that the journey from being a CIFL in 2000, a deemed university, to moving on to a central university in 2007, and in 2016, being able to get an A grade after 16 long years. has been an achievement by itself. I generally say that the journey is more important than the destination, because when we arrive at the destination, the sense of arrival gives you a sense of complacency. And I think that complacency is something that we must be wary of. So the journey by itself is very important. And for me, the journey has been an ongoing journey here at English and Foreign Languages University. No matter what we achieve, there's still so much more to achieve. And when I see our students and their dreams, their aspirations, I think there's so much more to accomplish. As faculty, as teachers, I think it's very important to remember Bernard Shaw here. You know, somebody asked him, as a teacher, what do you think that you can give to the students? And he said, I'm not a teacher. I'm quoting him. I'm not a teacher, I'm a fellow traveler. When the students ask me, I show them the way beyond myself and them. You know? So when you show a certain pathway which you yourself may not have traversed, and there's a potential for students to get there, I think that is a mark of a great teacher. Because you don't just inspire the students to read and to add to their knowledge quotient, but you also give them that inspiration, that potential, you know, add to their personality in such a way that they move far ahead of you. And that is the reward for a teacher. I think that is what is important. You know, when I look at the teaching fraternity across the nation, I believe that we have a greater responsibility today, because we are not just grooming the young minds, you know, we are preparing the potential there. We are trying to enthuse the potential in the youngsters. We have to make them realize that there's untapped talent there that they need to discover as they move forward. That is where I was thinking about what is essential for us to think about in 2017. Are we patriotic enough? When I ask myself this question, I don't think any one of us thinks about the nation first. We think about ourselves. You know, if one is honest with oneself, one's own journey, what one has achieved, where one would like to go. But then, in your own journey, it is your character building which is important. When you formulate a personality, when you formulate your character, within that formulation lies the ethos of patriotism. It's so well interconnected, because as a person, how I choose to conduct myself, what I choose to achieve, the road that I plan to traverse, all that leads towards nation building, all that leads towards nationality, all that leads towards patriotism. So that becomes the crux of it. And when I look at my non-teaching and I see the beauty around, the diligence with which they build an institution, the silent workers, as I call them, my administrative officers, the very backbone of an institution, you know? If they do not work silently behind the office corridors, it's not possible for students and faculty to go out and teach and walk with your head held high in an institution. So I give credit to my administrative officers, the non-teaching, and I hope they continue with the same fervor, the same zeal. We need to learn to push our abilities, push ourselves harder. And I think we keep doing that here. You know, it's been one of my mainstay to push my staff, to push my colleagues harder, to tell them to not to be content with what we have. You know, contentment can also be problematic. While the inner contentment is important for the personality, not being complacent and content about your achievements or what you have been able to accomplish is a sign of progress, a sign of growth. I think that is very important. I was just thinking about this. What is it that I would tell the EFLU family? That's what every one of us is. We are a family here, and we need to look after each other. We need to enthuse each other. We need to bring that zeal back into us on a daily basis. You know, when we believe in our destinations, when we believe in our goals, we generally look at what is it that we want, and we look at a certain podium. I think it's very important to look beyond the podium, look beyond the arrival. And I was just thinking about this, and I jotted down some points that I thought are relevant for our growth and progress. One I would say is grit and determination. Unless we have this, we are not going to move forward. Second, I thought we need compassion and empathy. Third, the emotional intelligence. Fourth, a collaborative spirit. Fifth, a growth mindset. And finally, flexibility, adaptability. You know, I have 5 points which I thought, which are so very relevant for us. Because I recall what Plato had said, and he had said very fervently, he who wishes to serve the nation should not merely have the power to think, but the will to act. The will to act will come through probably reflection on all this. You know, grit and determination are so very important to move forward. And I think about some of the inspiring personas. I'm not here focusing on the brilliant students, the gold medalists, the IITians, the IIM products who go out and make a mark for themselves. I'm thinking of an average student, you know, who works very hard, who does not believe that he's very intelligent, and yet keeps up with his diligence and, you know, with his sincerity. It is these people who make a mark, who leave a mark behind. I have one person in mind, and that is the CEO of Alibaba, Jack Ma. You would have heard about him. Jack Ma is the CEO of Alibaba. He failed to get admitted to Harvard 10 times, which means he tried 10 times, and he failed. All the 10 times. He did not give up. Today, he builds an economy, not just for China, but for US also. So just look at the determination and grit. An average student who could not get placed in Harvard never gave up and still moved on. And you have this, you know, other very important contributors to the world economy. Peter Thiel is an angel investor. Again, an average person who moved forward. Not giving up in life is so very important, you know. The determination and zeal to keep up with your dreams, to think about what you can achieve, make a mark for the world, not just for your nation, not just for yourself, but move beyond. You know, as you move forward, thinking about what you can contribute, one would not know that one is contributing for the larger world. You know, and over a period of time, when you achieve this, the humility and the humbleness that is there in the persona, I think that's something that we all need to imbibe. The other thing that I was talking about is compassion and empathy. I don't think it is possible to be a good human being, to be patriotic, to be sincere, without having the quotient of empathy and compassion. No, it's very easy to be, you know, seeking one's own goals. To be selfless is very difficult. I think with selflessness comes empathy. It's not, this is something that one needs to cultivate. One needs to teach ourselves. And this is something that we need to groom ourselves and people around. So when we ourselves are compassionate and empathetic, you are actually inspiring a whole lot of people around you. And I think that's something that we need to keep in mind as we move forward, because I think it was Tagore who said, a candle that is not lit cannot light others. You know, if you have that spark and you make a mark with your own empathetic values, I think there are many more people who would be inspired. A collaborative spirit, this is so very important. When we look at the world, Darwin long ago had said survival of the fittest, but then what he said after that nobody read. One got carried away by. It was not the survival of the fittest. He said those people who may not be intelligent, but those who are responsive to change, who adapt the change, they achieve a lot of things. They move forward. There is progress there. So it's not the survival of the fittest, but those who can come together, the adaptability, the collaborative spirit, working together, moving forward together, taking people along with us, inspiring them. I think that is the spirit of movement, and that's what youngsters need to think about. Because when we dream for ourselves, but the dreams involve many, many people, and we all come together at some point. And I think that coming together and then taking people forward in one's achievements, on a path of progress, I think that is very important. A growth mindset. A growth mindset is the kind of progress you have in mind, never to give up, to look beyond. I think this is also a quality of leadership, because you are not just focused on what you're doing, but you need to plan ahead. In India, what we need to do today, perhaps my young friends will take it up, we need to plan 30, 40 years beyond. I think as it is, we are 10 years behind, I feel. So we need to think about that and move forward. So a growth mindset is so very important, and that will happen when each one of us believes in oneself. It's very important to develop your wings, and that will happen. A poet had said, a bird that learns to fly alone has the strongest wings. So when you carry your determination forward, that's the way to move forward. And of course, flexibility, adaptability. This is so very important. When you look at emotional, if I put everything together, these days we have, the University of Toronto has come up with a robot who's called Ross. It's called Ross Intelligence these days, because he's supposed to not just collect the material from across for a lawyer, but also the inferences. All the references, inferences, everything is done by the robot. So you have the lawyer who's given everything. Now what happens to our own intelligence? What happens to our own way of looking at the world? What happens to our own interpretation? I think it's very important to be mindful of one's own emotional and intellectual side, and look at how we can carve a different world. While we have the support system, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, the first president of India, had said that it's okay to be, to have all the facilities in the world. But we need to be mindful whether we are becoming dependent on them. So let's not be dependent on anything. So to come back to the point, it's very important to be free, to be independent in mind, in heart, to move forward in life. And I think that is what Republic Day celebrates. On that note, Jai Hind.